The ability to focus and concentrate is a life skill that will serve you well for the rest of your life. People who can concentrate better learn things quicker. People who can focus on the conversation in front of them will have better relationships. And people who can focus and concentrate their efforts towards wealth building will have greater wealth. It's all a compounding effect. So in the spirit of always upgrading ourselves, let me share with you 12 practical tips to improve your focus and concentration. And hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. Number one tip to improve our focus and concentration. Focus on one task, one item at a time. Multitasking is a myth, and a horrible one at that. I know, we technically can do two things at once: drive and talk on the phone at the same time, cook and listen to a podcast simultaneously. However, doing two things at the same time and concentrating on two tasks at the same time are completely different things. When we're driving and talking on the phone at the same time, we most often are driving on a familiar road based on muscle memory and concentrating on the phone conversation. But have you ever had a time when you're on the phone while driving and you entered a neighborhood you weren't familiar with? You probably missed what the person on the other end of the phone was saying. You had to concentrate on the road in front of you because it was new, and you had a hard time focusing on the conversation at the same time. You effectively couldn't concentrate on driving and talking on the phone at the same time. So don't try to focus on two or three things at once. The scientific fact is that we can only concentrate on one thing at a time. But the honest truth is that our attention spans are short. We gravitate towards multitasking because a single task in front of us is so hard, we want distraction. It's really hard to grind through the seemingly impossible task in front of us. This is where the next tip comes in. Number two tip to improve your focus and concentration. Write out what you're going to focus on prominently. Big and bold where you can see it. As stated earlier, when we're trying really hard to focus on a difficult task in front of us, our mind is naturally going to look for a way out. Thus the reason we check our emails, check what's on Facebook, or what's new on Netflix, instead of concentrating all our efforts on the task at hand. What's helped me during these times has been to write out what I'm going to be working on prominently on a big whiteboard that's right in my field of view. On my whiteboard, I have a section that literally says today's priority, and right below that, an area where I can write out my one task for the day. And I tell myself, I'm not going to allow myself to work on anything else or be distracted by anything else until I cross that task off my list. It's not foolproof, but it's visible, and that makes a huge difference in your mental psyche. When you go to some gyms, you might see a whiteboard with people's best lifts on it. The reason they do this is because it encourages accountability. Seeing someone's top score encourages people to try to reach it or surpass it with their own score, whether that is heavier lifting, more reps, or faster time. In the same way, when you write out your task prominently where you can see it, you're establishing accountability with yourself. You're saying out loud, this is what I'm going to focus and work on until I complete it. If you'd like to take this habit a step further, I also like to block out time on my calendar and label it with the task I'm working on. This way there are two forms of accountability that is keeping me on my lane. Number three tip to improve your focus and concentration. Leverage morning time. Everyone is built differently. However, a general rule of thumb is that for most people, morning is when they have the highest level of energy. This is your peak productivity time. So be careful not to waste this precious window. Plug in your most important task of the day in the morning. It could be that PowerPoint slide you've been pushing off on, tackling organic chemistry, or writing that report you've been dreading for weeks. Make that your first priority in the morning. This really is a concept of managing your energy, not your time. When you aren't thinking about the energy level associated with each hour of the day, it doesn't matter if you have your schedule dialed in. Your energy level, thus your ability to concentrate on hard things at 8 p.m. right after a big meal, is going to be quite different from 9 a.m. after you had a good night's sleep. So leverage your morning time for ultimate concentration. Number four tip to improve your focus and concentration. Never check email the first thing in the morning. And if you can help it, not before lunchtime. You've heard of the saying, I can't unsee what I've seen. Once it passes by our eyes, we can't unsee it. It penetrates into our mind and soon takes away that precious mental energy that's required for concentration. Focus really is all about eliminating distractions. And in today's ultra-connected world, emails are one of the biggest culprits. In most corporations, emails are the main form in which everyone communicates. When I was in the corporate world, it was normal to receive 100 emails a day. If it was less than 50, it was a light day. The email issue is so pervasive that Cal Newport, the author of So Good They Can't Ignore You and Deep Work, dedicated a whole book on the fight against email, the world without email. Though it's hard to imagine a day where email completely disappears, we can learn to manage it from taking over our lives and, more importantly, our ability to concentrate. So get in the habit of not checking your email the first thing in the morning. You don't want to start out your day by reacting to other people's agenda. Rather, you want to spend your precious morning time focusing on yours. Number five tip to improve your focus and concentration. Clear your desk. In the line of distraction, our physical environment, or more specifically our desk, plays a big role in either helping us to concentrate or distract us from concentration. Do you remember in college when you were geared up to study for a major test or write that major term paper? It took so much of your energy to get yourself to the desk. But then suddenly, you see a pile of flyers you collected at the beginning of the school year. You didn't bother to clear them throughout the whole year, but now you suddenly have the urge to look through them. Why is this? Going back to our earlier point regarding concentration and focus is very hard. So hard that our mind is looking for all and any way to get out of it. Unfolded laundry? Oh, I better get to them before I get to my paper. Messy desk? Oh, I better clear it before I jump into my textbook. Prevent this temptation before you even begin. Clear your desk before you tackle the hard task. If you don't have time to thoroughly clear your desk, choose the brute force method. Take everything that's on your desk, dump it in a box, and park it behind you so you can't see it while you're working. Number 6 tip to improve your focus and concentration. Position your desk for minimal distraction. Stephen King talks about in his biography on writing how he envisioned once he became a successful writer, working off a massive slab of oak that would dominate a room. In 1981, he got his dream desk and placed it in the middle of a spacious, skylighted study. However, the desk was anything but the messiah he had hoped. Instead, it became a source of misery and distraction. For 6 years, I sat behind the desk either drunk or wrecked out of my mind, like a ship's captain in charge of a voyage to go nowhere. So he eventually abandoned his dream desk and instead offered a small handmade one in the corner of his office, away from any distraction, up against the wall, with the sole purpose of the desk to enable his writing. Though I don't have anything close to Stephen King's writing stamina, I try to practice by positioning my desk either up against the wall or the window. The ideal positioning, to be honest, is a constant moving target, but it's definitely better than having it in the middle of all the foot traffic. Eliminate every possible distraction. Number 7 tip to improve your focus and concentration. Whatever you're working on and whatever app, go full screen mode on it. If you're reading an article for research, go full screen. If you're writing a report, go full screen. Even if you're writing a simple email, go full screen. When you're in full screen mode, you can't see the menu bar or other apps. Essentially more things that could distract you. Again, improving your focus and concentration is all about removing distraction. You might not think much about an icon on your screen or a file on your desktop, but subconsciously, it is pulling attention away from the item you need to be focusing on. So when in doubt, go full screen mode. Number 8 tip to improve your focus and concentration. Turn off all notifications. In the line of distractions taking away from our ability to concentrate, notifications are another one of those major distractions. When you look at all the devices that we're surrounded with, our phone, our tablets, computers, and nowadays smart home devices such as Echo and Google Home, it's a miracle we're able to get anything done at all. All these devices have the ability to interrupt us any time of the day if we allow it. And it's not just text and emails anymore. It's a notification about what new show just came out on Netflix, what the weather is going to be this afternoon, and what new video Tay the Financial Tortoise just published. Turn off as many notifications as you feel comfortable. The last thing you need when you're knee-deep in writing your next best-selling novel, or putting together that forecast report for your CEO, is a notification that your PlayStation requires software updating. If you want to supercharge this tip, go as far as leaving your phone in the other room when in ultimate concentration mode. Number 9 tip to improve your focus and concentration. Minimize noise contamination, or noise distraction, whatever you like to call it. Again, concentrating is extremely hard. Have you ever had a time when you're trying to do some hard work at a coffee shop, but the conversation at the next table keeps intruding into your mental psyche, and you keep losing concentration? And even when you're in a somewhat quiet environment, the smallest noise somehow make their way into the crane of your ear. If you want to improve your concentration, you want to minimize even the smallest distractions. For me, some of the best methods have been the following. 1. Use earplugs. It's old school, but it gets the job done. 2. Listen to concentration music. Baroque is my favorite. The beat is fast enough to keep me engaged, and there are no words to distract me. 3. Combine the two. My wife often uses this method. Listen to Baroque music with AirPods under noise reduction earmuffs. It could be a bit of an overkill, but it guarantees minimal noise contamination. Number 10 tip to improve your focus and concentration. Use a timer. Fancy productivity gurus call it the Pomodoro technique, but it's simply just using a timer to help you concentrate. I personally like to do 45-minute increments followed by 10-minute breaks. But if you have a hard time staying focused for that long, start out with 25 minutes, or any amount of time that you feel comfortable with. The timer is cementing the contract that you're making with yourself. You're saying unless there's a major national emergency that requires your attention, you're committing to concentrating for that allotted time period. I've used various tools for this in the past, a kitchen timer, my phone, but now given most of my work is in the computer clock app works just fine. Number 11 tip to improve your focus and concentration. Don't work yourself out to burnout. When we're deep in concentration mode, we feel like we need to juice out every ounce of energy we have. But don't work so hard to the point of burnout. Ernest Hemingway, the author of The Old Man and countless other classics, gave this advice to maintaining writing momentum. The best way is to always stop when you're going good and when you know what will happen next. If you do that every day, you'll never be stuck. Essentially, if things were going well, don't push your luck too much. Stop halfway. If you're a fiction writer, instead of finishing the scene, stop halfway through despite your desire to keep going. This way, you have something to jump into and begin writing immediately during your next writing session. For me, I noticed this with script writing. If I stop at an optimal point, I wake up with new ideas or better ways of framing our argument. And more importantly, it gets me excited to jump into the mode of concentration instead of dreading it. Number 12 tip to improve your focus and concentration. Get enough sleep. This is an obvious one, but if we aren't getting enough sleep, all the stuff that we talked about so far really doesn't matter. You can't hack your way into focus and concentration mode if your mind didn't get the proper rest it needed. Some of the ways I've improved my sleep has been the following. 1. No phone in my bedroom before bedtime. I might be using it before bedtime, but I intentionally have the charger outside the bedroom so I'm not tempted by my phone while trying to go to sleep. 2. I always keep my Kindle and a couple of books next to my bed. Something about reading helps me to calm my mind and prepares me for good sleep. 3. Earplugs and eye mask. I've noticed I'm a lot more sensitive to light and noise as I've gotten older, especially after we had kids. The earplugs and eye mask made me feel like I'm in a noise and light reduced cocoon. I'll have a link in the description to the ones I like to use. Thank you guys for watching, and in the line of life optimization, please check out my video here on 20 simple life and money hacks to transform your life. Until next time, all the best.